So in one of my previous videos, I was telling you guys about all the games that have been releasing on Roblox for the longest. Games that we just keep getting over and over again. The One Piece, the Demon Slayers, the Bleach, Screw Bleach. And that we're all clearly tired of getting all of these games over and over again because the comment section of my last video was, it was pretty lively. Well, I'm gonna tell you guys my personal opinion. I know you guys have games that y'all put in my comment section in the previous videos about games y'all wanna see, animes that y'all wanna see on Roblox. But I want this to be my personal list, and any game that y'all want to see that has not been on the platform or isn't popular, that maybe y'all just want on the platform or whatever, type it down in the comments below. I'll be reading it. But anyways, let's get right into it. Now we're gonna start off with a SAO game. I know, this game is actually a pretty common game on the platform. It's pretty popular, but we haven't actually gotten a good SAO game. Like imagine we actually got a good SAO game. For once. We've gotten so many SAO games over the past few years that have been released, that is currently being developed, and some that we've been able to test, and honestly, they aren't the best. I made a few videos talking about some games like World Seed that's supposedly in development right now. We haven't gotten any information on the game in the longest. I was able to test the game. I believe it was sometime earlier this year, or maybe it was last year. I was able to test the game though, and there wasn't much to do in it. It was still very early in development, so there's not really much I could say anyways. But aside from even that, imagine we had a proper SAO game where, for example, we had a game where it started off with, I don't know, 2 to 3 floors. You know guys, how you have to get to 100 floors in SAO. Well, they do it in Roblox where every update is a few floors. Maybe it's 1 floor, but every update is a few floors, maybe 2 floors, and properly made floors, you know. Just like how TPO has the first C, or Blox has first, second, third C. They could do that for an SAO game, except it's first, second, third floor, all the way up to 100 floors. There's so much to do. Okay, 100 might be crazy though. Like, actually, no, it's not, because for updates, that just keeps the game going forever. 100 floors is crazy. Maybe you have a floor that's more chill than the other, like the floor that has all the shops, all the places you need to go for customization, just the district, the shopping district. And then maybe you have higher floors to conquer that are just simply more dangerous and difficult. Maybe they'll have one floor that is specifically more dangerous than the rest, where if you die in that floor, you have a possibility of losing something. I don't know, to make it, you know, more dangerous, I guess. That would be really cool. And then also obviously going in between floors and conquering dungeon bosses. Before even getting to the dungeon bosses, there could be like puzzles and stuff like that. So, you know, for example, when an update happens, you'll have different parties, different clans going through the dungeon floor to try and find the boss. It could be an actual thing that people do. You know how in Blox, sometimes during updates, you have to find things and the whole community has no idea or any idea how to maybe get a race or something like that. Or it could be the same thing for bosses in this game, where you have the whole community trying to find out how to get to the boss. And when they actually do, that's when, you know, the content creators, whatever, could drop a guide of how to get to the boss. I don't know. I just think that would be so tough, bro, for a sort of online game. There's actually a lot of ideas that you could put for a sort of online game. Y'all can type it down below. If y'all have anything exclusive that y'all want to give devs ideas, type it down below. But I don't want to talk too much about Sword Art Online because, to be honest, it's still a pretty popular one. Let's move on to the next one. Next is a Katekyo Hitman Reborn game. I know that this is my personal top 3 anime, but I know that a lot of you guys in the comments, maybe not a lot, but those of you who know Hitman Reborn, while this isn't something that I personally was like feeling like it needs to be on the platform because the way the anime works, it's kinda hard to see it done properly. However, here's my idea. So in the anime, there are, I believe, 3 different type of rings. Of course, if they want to add even more type of rings, because this is Roblox, they could add more than what's actually in the anime. But if they want, they have at least 3, I believe, different type of rings, or whatever you call it. The system, the Arcabal, I don't know. I don't know. They have the Vongola ring, the Mare ring, and the little pacifiers thingy. And each of those rings have different elements, different abilities. And what you could do is you could have, when you enter the game, you could choose between the 3 factions. Let's say factions. And obviously based off the faction is your family. So obviously if you're one faction, you can't really team up. You can't really be teams with anybody on the outside faction, which is kind of tough to be honest, but each faction should have variety. Each faction should have variety within that faction. So obviously, Vongola will have way more elements than is in the anime, because in the anime, I'm pretty sure it's only like 5. So you would add way more, but either ways, you would have, even within that faction, you could have different groups, different, I guess, branches of the Vongola family within it. If you haven't watched the anime, you're probably super confused with what I'm saying. I'll be so real. But anyways, you could have different levels, different stages to your rings. And whenever you upgrade your ring, you get more abilities, more passives, more stuff. And obviously, the higher your rank goes, the more your ring, evolves. When you upgrade your ring to a certain point, you should be able to unlock a flight ability for every single ring faction. I mean, boom, if you know the anime, you could probably create something out of that. But in terms of progression, I want to say, obviously, number 1, you have to have bandit beating. You can't have a good Roblox game without bandit beating. 2, there should be some type of mode where you have families go up against each other. For example, the Vongola versus the mayor, just like in the anime. They have the families going at each other. You should have, multiple different game modes. And yeah, just progression should really be based off of really upgrading that ring. So doing what you have to do to upgrade that ring. Honestly, any ideas y'all have down in the comments below, let me know. But for a game like this, I would really want it to be where, not just this game, but pretty much every game on my list, but make it where, while combat is a really essential part of the game, there should be other things that makes you feel like, oh, let me just stay on this game. Other things that make you satisfied with the stuff that you accomplished, like maybe you get your Vongola stuff, and it could be used for open world activities as well. So you could feel like the stuff that you obtained isn't just for combat, it's for the open world stuff as well. Maybe you have to get a certain ability to get to a certain place. I don't know, just make it feel like your abilities are worth more than just fighting. Okay, but yeah, I do know for the reborn stuff that I'm talking about right now, I'm really just all over the place because I did not script this. But on to the next. This one right here is one of my favorite animes as well, probably top 3. I've actually already made an entire video on what I would want in a railgun game, and that's what we're talking about right now. But if you guys want more on that video, y'all could just go watch that. I'll probably put that in the description because I explain it in way more detail. It's essentially the same thing. I feel like this would be a very easy anime to make a game on. We have games like Type Soul, which could, honestly be built the same way for Railgun. They could have a very similar base, but there's that. There's, as much as I didn't care for Mashal was also Mashal Academy, the game on Roblox. To a degree, could be built that way. Obviously, I would want to make it better, but yeah. Now on a Railgun game, there's already 3 easy abilities or 3 easy races that you can have in this game, which would be Esper, which is the scientific side. If you watch Railgun, you know what I'm talking about. Magician, which is the magical side, and then there's Angel. More could probably be added in the future, but those 3 are easy starting points. And obviously within both Esper and Magician, you have an Angel, you have a bunch of different abilities that wouldn't be in the other races, which is why I'm saying Type Soul is a similar kind of thing. Because in Type Soul, if you go Soul Reaper, you have different abilities than from a Rancor. But anyways, an Esper would have things like Electromaster, Teleporter, Accelerator, Arrow Hand, Pyrokinesis, Telekinesis. I mean, there's actually so much abilities in this anime. There's so much. And even things that you can make up. Magician side could have its own abilities. There's a lot of magic abilities in the show that I don't remember, but those, and same thing with the Angel abilities. And before I move on to the next part of talking about this Railgun game, I want every single one of these abilities to feel like, once again, they're not just for PvP, they can be used in the overworld, because one thing I like about the Railgun anime is how casually they be using their powers within the show, how normal it is. So give each ability some type of passive to make it feel like you're really this ability. Maybe there's some areas in the city or some areas in the map world where maybe you need an Electromaster to light up the place, to activate something, or to get to a certain part of a map because other ability users can't do it. Maybe you need a teleporter to get to certain areas. Someone, or maybe somebody with Hydro Hand, which is, someone who controls water essentially, for something as well. Make it feel like each ability could be used in the overworld for things outside of PvP as well. I think that would be so cool. And speaking of the maps, you could have, different maps like Academy City, which you need to have Academy City. Obviously, that's the scientific side. So if you choose Esper, you should spawn in Academy City. You have the outside world, which if you choose Magician, you should spawn in the outside world. There's different villages and stuff like that. And if you're a Magician, you should spawn in one of those villages. And if you choose Angel, there's different churches within the anime that you could, yeah, there is different churches. But I want the game to be so detailed, just like in Type Soul, another Type Soul idea. And guys, I don't want Type Soul 2.0 because I'm not saying Type Soul is the best game. It just has, you know, similarities that could be used in this game. Even within Academy City, if you choose Esper, there should be different schools that you attend, you go to, just like Mashal, like Tokyo Wadai, Kirigoka, Sakugawa, Misawa. It just keeps going. There's a lot of schools that they can add to the game, and you should have the ability to, or not even the ability, you should be forced to go to one of those schools, and that's how you kind of progress. Aside from PvP, there's, you know, objectives and stuff that you have to complete within each school that whatever you attend is, you know, different requirements and different tests that you have to pass. Oh man, I could really cook with this one. I could go in detail with this one. And then obviously, this is the last thing I want to talk about this game because there's actually so much, but family names. There should be a bunch of different family last names, obviously, like they do in every Roblox game now these days, but Mikoto, Kamijo, Kuroko, Misaki, etc. There's a ton of names that you could use in this game for different passives or abilities, ability buffs. Y'all know how it is. It's last names. I don't really have to explain it in detail. Maybe there could be a family buff if you're same last name as someone and, you know, you're in the same party, maybe there's a buff. Anyways, on to the next game. If y'all have any more ideas on that game, though, let me know down in the comments below. Devs, if y'all are watching this video, and I know some of y'all are, y'all know what to do. DM me. Next is on a Dragon Ball game. I actually made a video on this before already, and I've gotten some comments talking about, oh, essentially I just want a One Piece game, but called Dragon Ball. Just because I don't want fight to be so essential that it takes away from the game. Now, obviously, if it's a Dragon Ball Z game, there should be fight. But if it's based off of Dragon Ball, which had no flight, it doesn't really need a flight, but sure, you could add flight, just make it limited is what I said. There should be different mounts, and y'all were saying there's no mounts in Dragon. Yeah, there is. There is Bulma's vehicles that you use at the beginning of the anime. There's the Flying Nimbus. You could have flight as kind of a mount, but flight, just make it work like that. Everybody should be able to unlock that at a point. Just make it limited. Once again, there's random animals like dinosaurs and obviously more, but that's the mount system. I want the worlds to be built where, you know, flying, everybody's not just flying across the entire map in 2 seconds, because that takes away from it. Now, there's a Roblox game on Dragon Ball that actually looks so perfect. This is actually, like, if I had to make a Dragon Ball game, I'd want it to look just like this, visually at least. Before a Dragon Ball game, I would want it to be pretty grounded, especially at the start. I would want it to be where one of those things where you have to unlock flight at a certain point, but I'd want it to be one of those things where you have to unlock flight at a certain point. You don't just start off with it. You go through different martial art tournaments throughout the progression to get stronger, but then there's also, you know, places that you have to raid, like the Red Ribbon Army, for also progression, or just normal PvP, or the normal bandit beating stuff progression. But there's a lot of variety you could add if you go through the Dragon Ball route and not just the Dragon Ball Z route. This is a game called the Dragon Ball Online that I played. I always mention this, but I played years ago. This game was pretty grounded. You could fly in that game. There were mounts in that game, but it was still pretty grounded. Base that game heavily off of that, take heavy ideas from that game, because that game is actually a really good foundation. Honestly, if you just take ideas from that game, I don't really have to say much more for this video because that is pretty, they got it on the mark. But let's just talk about late game in that game when everybody does have flights. How would the combat work if flight is limited? Because obviously if flight is, if you take inspiration and ideas from Dragon Ball Online that released some time ago, there's really not much more I need to say, to be honest. So we're just gonna leave it at that because I actually have a whole video on this anyways. Y'all can just go watch that. But a good Dragon Ball game would be really good. Let me know how y'all feel about that down in the comments below. But last but not least, that I saw some of you guys saying this in my comment section as well, a Fairy Tail Roblox game. Oh, Fairy Tail is trash. Even if you don't like the anime, doesn't mean the game can't be good. Just for example, Holy War X is based on the 7 Deadly Sins. Who would have asked for that? Now, obviously, you would start the game with a bunch of different clans that you could choose from or have, whatever. There is actually a Fairy Tail game that's currently in development, but obviously there's a ton of different magics, and even within the magics, there's different levels to it. They're like Dragon Slayer magics, so obviously those would be much more rare. But the game should have different guild halls that you could join, different guilds, bandit beating progression, world bosses, maybe you have to fight Acnologia, different game modes where you fight each other in maybe a world tournament type thing like they did in one of the seasons. A Fairy Tail game is pretty straightforward. It's just, it has to be made good, properly, because it could also be, it could also turn out pretty bad. But if they could get the magic system down properly, that could be a pretty good system. We haven't gotten any fairy tale Roblox games on the platform, or let alone a good one, in years, forever. It's been a long time. I remember a while ago, before I started YouTube, I helped on one fairy tale game, but aside from that, I never really found a good one on the platform. But yeah, let me know how y'all feel about my personal top 5. Again, these are my top 5 games that I would want to see on the platform. Really, my top 2 would be the Railgun and Dragon Ball game, and I guess the Hitman Reborn game, but not so much as that. Oh, and okay, yeah, my top 5 games. But let me know how y'all feel about all of these down in the comments below. What are your personal top 5? Your personal top 5. Type it down in the comments below, and I'll be reading it. And I'll see y'all next video. Peace out.